Alright, this is my third time recording this because I cannot figure out how to get this screen recording software to work. So anyways, hello, this is my very first video, and I'm going to do a brief walkthrough on how I get a final image like this for an Airbnb shoot in San Francisco. Alright, so I'm going to have to kind of scroll through this. I'm in Lightroom currently, and basically we're going to be working with two separate exposures. One is going to be an ambient layer, and one is going to be a flash layer. So I just have to find these. Gotta find it. Where am I at? Okay, here's an ambient layer. We'll walk through what I'm looking for this. Basically, you're going to take one single exposure in the camera. It's going to be all ambient lighting. No extra artificial lighting will be adding to this one. Important thing is you need to get this slightly to the right in the histogram. I'm kind of far on the right, but that's because the window isn't really important for this particular shot, which is mostly where the high-end data is, and most of it's clipping, but it's not super important. In fact, you can kind of adjust the exposure a bit to taste, which I may do, but what I really want is to get nice texture, nice cascading light from the window across the bed. It's basically what I have. Then you got the exposure correct to the right, how you want it to be. You're going to get the white balance as correct as possible. You can use this picker. I've already done this ahead of time, but you can click the wall, something that's kind of a neutral gray. And the important thing is you get the flash layer and the ambient layer as close as you can to match each other. Here's all the panel for the exposure, clarity, all this stuff. I have a preset that I call the saucy bump, which I use at the very end. But it just kind of adds a little bit of saturation, vibrance, things like this. But the most important thing is when you're prepping your ambient shot and your flash shot in Lightroom is you do exposure, white balance, and then you enable chromatic aberrations and profile corrections, which profile corrections is essentially just adjusting for distortion and idiosyncrasies of the lens you're using. I'm using a Samyang 12mm on a Fuji X-T2 lens, or Samyang 12mm lens on a Fuji X-T2 camera. So basically this is looking good. So I'm going to mark this, and then I'm going to find my flash shot. Let's see. Yes, this one, and then these two. So the flash shot, basically what you're doing is you're stabilizing the scene with artificial light. So when you're in the room, you're going to take the camera and you're going to lower the exposure to kind of kill most of the ambient light. So you're looking at like a higher shutter speed, something like 1/60th, 1/125th, something like this. That way, when you fire the flash, it gets all the colors correct. It gets the white balance correct in the room. A lot of times it makes the window exposure look better. If you're in a situation like this, you don't have to do any kind of window pull or anything fancy with the window. I think it looks good. I think it looks natural. You can see some foliage outside the window. So this is with a Godox 8200 flash. The histogram's looking good. It's where I want for this particular photo. A lot of this stuff you kind of like mold for taste as you get more experienced, but this is kind of like where I like to be. So these two images I'm going to edit and open as layers in Photoshop. So you always start by prepping the images in Lightroom first, and then you do the blending in Photoshop. So I'm doing that, opening. Let's see, taking its time. It's sweet, sweet time. Camera's running slow because I have so many tabs open, which is what I normally do. I'm going to label each layer. is it's still loading the bottom layer. That's annoying. Still loading, still loading, still loading. That's crazy. I'm gonna not close this. What the hell is happening? Dang, I'm gonna have to reopen the flash layer. Don't mind these technical difficulties here. I probably have too many YouTube videos open, which is, let's see. Yeah, it's funny. It never. Okay, so let's ignore this one. Okay, the important thing is you get your flash layer and you get your ambient layer as layers in a single Photoshop window. So here we go. Flash, or the bottom layer is ambient, which will change in a second. The top is flash. I pull the flash all the way down. The flash is the base layer. The other thing too is what we should do sometimes. If you get too confident with your on-site abilities, you may forget to do this, but you want to auto-align layers so there's no kind of like weird like image misalignments and stuff when you're doing this kind of editing. And you'll see like this little like weird checkered thing is kind of showing that it was slightly off, but a lot of this stuff can't be detected. But it's good to have these kind of things in your organizational tools because they do matter at certain points. So ambient layer is on top, flash layer is on bottom. What I'm going to do with the ambient layer is put a mask and hide that top layer. Now I'm going to say that if any of this is kind of like confusing, one is because I'm a little disorganized, but two, you really need to know how to use Photoshop well, and you need to have the foundations and the fundamentals like ingrained in your mind. So layers and masking is just like quintessential. Black mask means the top layer is hidden, and then when you paint over with a brush, it exposes certain areas, which is basically what we'll be doing here. The flash layer at the bottom, it's the stabilization of the image, essentially. At least that's the way I think of it. And the top is ambient, so we're just bringing in like natural light. We'll start right here. Also, flow should be around 8, 9, 10, or 11%. Very soft brush, which you can change that in here. I have the hardness at 0, so it's just like as soft as it gets. You want to make this a seamless transition. You're going to slowly kind of see. I'm also going to change this to luminosity. Luminosity mode, which basically you're brushing in highlights, or you're basically brushing the light, but you're not brushing in color or anything. This is just like texture. You can kind of see the pillow shift a little bit. A lot of these things are very subtle, but it's the overall image that's important. A lot of these things you don't really notice on a individual level, but when you start seeing a finished product, you start looking at this stuff over and over again, it makes a difference. And it's important just to do like the highest quality work as you can, because you want your photos to look good. I mean, this is an art form, and a lot of it comes down to your taste, but most importantly, your client. They need to like the photos, needing to feel like these photos are representative of the home, especially when they put a lot of work into it. We had a designer come in for this one, and and yeah, we wanted to represent it as a warm, inviting place for an Airbnb. This is over in the Marina District in San Francisco. Once you get this stuff down, all the editing process goes a lot quicker. I've already edited this video before, so I'm just doing this strictly for demonstration. But as you can see, like, this is strictly flash. This is with the ambient light blended, and I think it's a little too bright in the corner, so I'm just gonna hit X to go back to black, which is going to be hiding some of this overall brightness. And then I'll hit X again, which will be the white brush that kind of exposes. You can see this mask down here. The black and the white, you know how it's like blotchy. You might not understand what this means, but all the white is basically the top layer being shown through. It's a kind of it's the exposure is visible. The black is what's hidden. So those are the areas they don't want to be seen. And the goal here is to make things look not artificial. Ambient light and flash are not at all interchangeable. The goal is to make it blend and look seamless. And a little bit of color cast, I think, is not a problem. Although in the future we'll talk about that and kind of work on those issues. But some of the color casting is just only natural. You don't want this whole thing to look sterile and like a hospital or something. This is Airbnb shoot. If this was for a real estate MLS, I might approach this a little differently. But I don't know. It really depends, because there's not any one way to light things. A lot of people have different techniques. I think this is a pretty decent one overall. Once I'm done with this, I merge the layers, and then I hit Command S, and this will take me back in the Lightroom. That's a lie. Command S. Okay. Oh, now here we are. It's taking us back in. Here's the image that we had, that we edited. Once you start in Lightroom, you edit in Photoshop, and then I always bring it back into Lightroom for like finishing, cropping, some bumps, like preset bumps. I use this saucy bump thing, which I named, which is basically just adds a little bit of vibrant saturation and a little bit of like clarity and texture. I'm gonna crop this one a bit. I don't really think for this particular thing you need to see this image. You need to see like the that third wall. The third wall might be important for like real estate, to show you how, like a real estate MLS style photo shoot, to show you how big the room is. This already looks pretty big in my opinion, and it's really about the details here. Like, would the Airbnb customer want to actually sleep here? I mean, you're trying to recreate a homey, warm environment feeling, and that's exactly what we're going for here. This is pretty much a finished product. The other thing you want to check for is your verticals and your geometry. And the thing is, like, I always try to get it as perfect as I can in camera, so I don't have to worry about this stuff, because sometimes there's unnecessary cropping. This actually is good. There's the whole transform module here is actually super important, but the most important thing is getting this correct in camera. That way the editing goes a lot faster. Once you get good with this stuff, the editing will go pretty fast, but it takes a lot of repeat jobs to kind of get in the flow. Over time you kind of curate something. So that's basically it. I would export this at 85%, and I would send it to the client, and they would be pretty happy. So thank you for watching.